Sairam all, welcome to the second episode of the first quarter of the year and to our Region 10 Inspirational channel. And this particular quarter, our theme is to listen to our own devotees from the region and their experiences, their perceptions, their feelings about Swami. And this is one way of knowing our own region members. And in this second month, February, we have our guests as Jack Ahearn and Sally Schaefer. Jack Ahearn is happily married to Sally Schaefer. He is blessed with 5 children, 10 grandchildren, and 3 great grandchildren. He is an Irishman who loves Irish music and sports. He has run 12 marathons and 3 ultra marathons. He is very active even today also. You ask him to run, today he is very happily run marathons. His interests are many and cover meditation, spiritual reading, and reading mystery novels, to name a few. He has been teaching SSC since 1996 at Dallas High Center. His favorite quote is "Love all, serve all, and help ever, hurt never." Sally was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and attended Episcopal Church with her family as a child and teenager. Sally and her sister attended Sunday school in all their early years, which gave them a firm foundation in religion and faith. Many years later, Sally was introduced to Sat Sai Baba, and since then, she has been immersed in his teachings and his divine love. Sally has a son who is now married and a beautiful soul. She had several different professions in her work life, all related to service and kindness, and she now spends her time in a gentle life that includes spiritual work, service, study, and time in Mother Nature with her beloved husband, Jack. With this brief introduction, I would request Jack and Sally to come on and speak to us and share your wisdom on today's topic. Siren.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
And by the way, and when we're finished, if there's any questions, the last 10 minutes or so, please don't hesitate to ask them. We're grateful to be here. And as you know, our topic is practicing spirituality in the chaotic world. And God knows it's chaotic right now. And we're going to start off with Sally has a piece that she's done in meditation that she wants to share with you.
I entitled this Spirituality in the Time of a Chaotic World because we certainly know that there's a lot of chaos going on in the world right now. And the spirituality that we have learned from Swami over the years has become a huge part of who we are, what's important to us, and how we lead our lives. So I'd like to share with you some thoughts about spirituality in the time of a chaotic world. Spirituality is a gift given to mankind by God. It is the soul of our being. It is the seed of our moral and religious nature, and entering through our mind or intellect and residing in our heart and in our soul. Spirituality is the seed of our feelings, which prompt us to action, serving those in need, saving those who are lost. As our beloved Swami has taught us, we must love all and serve all, especially in times of trouble and chaos. Why? Because chaos, by definition, is a state of utter confusion, creating disorder, upheaval, perplexity, complication, discouragement, and trouble, which chaos can create, disturbs the mental calm and contentment of our soul, creating worry, distress, annoyance, conflict, which only worsen the situation and upset those who are involved in it. So as you can see, our spirituality is a critical component of ourselves and our lives. We must not forget its value and importance, especially in times of chaos. Sathya Sai Baba was and is a great teacher of calmness. His walk, his talk, his touch, his tone was always calm. Chaos never touched him. Why? Perhaps because he resided in his true nature, his divinity, a place untouched by the chaos of the world, Maya. Shirdi Sai Baba was the same, as was Christ Michael, Jesus, also the Buddha, and other great gods who have walked among us. They knew how to be in chaos, and they sought to teach us this by example. So we walk our path in this chaotic world. And as we do so, we must remember the gift given us by the gods to know who we really are, children of the gods, and to choose carefully our thoughts, words, and deeds, especially in times of chaos. Only then will we be free, and only then will we be me, a child of God, walking my spiritual path.
That was beautiful, Sally.
Thank you.
So appropriate. You know, you talked about the different gods. I mean, none of them lived in tranquil times.
No.
Think about the life of Jesus and all he put up with and all he had to go through. And you think about Gandhi in India, and the English were taken over, and you know, they're all. So I think the key is the message that you got from Swami is to know who we really are. And if we can learn to operate out of our divinity rather than our egos, maybe life would be a little bit easier and a little calmer. And we got all these beautiful gods that have shown the way. So, you know, one of the things we talk about a lot is equanimity. And I don't know about you folks, but I'm really good at equanimity when everything's going well, you know. But when it goes bad, that's when you've got to figure out a way to say that will be done and try to stay on that same even keel and not spend your life just trying to make everything good. You do the best you can with everything, but there's an acceptance also. This is what it is, and I'll do the best I can with it. So I was wondering if we could have our discussion tonight and look through the lens of divine courage, divine confidence, and divine adventure.
Good.
And to me, that if we're going to live in our higher selves and connect to the gods of our choice, in our case, Swami, we have to surrender. And we have to say, that will be done to the best I can, rather than say, woe is me, why is this, what's going on? So we surrender. And if we surrender, that takes divine courage. Then we have divine confidence. And I'm confident that I have unique skills. We all have unique skills. And we are going to use those unique skills to do your holy will. And if you're confident, you have courage and confidence, and you know you're in sync with doing God's holy will, it turns into a divine adventure. So let's just say that no matter whatever happens all day long, we see it not as up and down. We see it as a divine adventure. And we're going to do God's will. We're going to have fun. We're going to use our skills, and we're going to grow. I would like to talk about one incident that really taught me the hard way about equanimity and divine courage. And that was when my dear brother Jim, my twin brother, who's very close to me, good-looking guy, identical twin. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He was very close to me, and he still is. And we used to go to Rochester, New York, and he was a president of the Multiple Sclerosis Society in Rochester. We would go there, I don't know, 20 years ago, and it was crazy. We'd do a 100-mile bike ride over 2 days, up and down hills, and we'd get people to sponsor us, and we'd give that money for the Multiple Sclerosis Society. I would like to say Jim and I did the bike ride together, but he was always about 10 miles ahead of me. But anyway, we were planning for the fourth ride, which was in the fall, and Jim was practicing in Rochester, and he was going down a hill about 50 miles an hour. He hit a bump and ended up in a ditch. Broke his clavicle, broke some ribs, and he had pneumonia, God knows what. And I figured he was going to get better, and I went up there, and I had Swami pictures and vibhuti and all kinds of stuff I was going to heal. And all of a sudden, as I'm getting on the plane from Dallas to go to Rochester, I get a call, and Jim's taking a turn for the worse, and he has a severe infection. And it was touch and go as what he was going to live or not. So I didn't know what to do. Why me? Oh, he's too young to die. You know, all these things that come to your mind. And so I turned to Jack Hawley. Jack Hawley is a great Sai devotee. He's written Dharmic Management and Bhagavad Gita for Westerners. And he and his wife, Louise, he used to sit on the dais, and she was always a big, Swami just loved him. He loved the both of them. And I said to Jack, I don't know what to do. He introduced Sally and I, by the way, to Swami. And he said, pray for his highest good. I said, what? He said, pray for his highest good. I said, I want to pray for him to get better. He said, well, you don't have any connection between his soul and God. Well, let them figure it out. You just pray for his highest good. Hardest thing I ever had to do. And I said to him, can I at least root for him? Can I do healing with him? Can I visualize him doing better? And they said, absolutely. So, but leave the rest to Swami. So first thing I had to do was have the courage to do that and say, total surrender. Now, I'd like to sit here and tell you I did it perfectly, but I didn't. But I got there. And then I figured if I could surrender, then I could have the confidence to do his holy will. And I was fairly adept at healing, so I could spend a week healing with him. And then I saw it as a divine adventure. It was Jim's journey, but I was there with him. And he was very close to me, as I said. We're inseparable. And over time, he got a little better and a little better. And I think some of the Irish Catholics in Rochester were a little askance to me with my vibhuti and my Swami pictures. And I must have poured vibhuti over every part of his body. But the bottom line was he got better. Was it Swami? I'm sure he had something to do with it. Was it Jesus? Was it Jim's soul saying, I'm not ready to leave yet? Who knows? But he's here, and he continues to work at the hospice, and he continues to work with inner city poor people, and he's 20 years later, he's still doing good work wherever he goes. And he's not a Sai Baba devotee. But you know what? He's got Swami pictures on his house, because Jim says, if you think he's cool, I think he's cool. And he talks to Swami all the time. So anyway, that's my brother Jim. I think that I learned a little bit about surrender and equanimity on that trip. So what do you think?
Oh, I think that's very true. It was a difficult time for you, and you had to learn, or at least apply if you already knew it, how to be peaceful.
Yeah.
Because if you were just racked with
Anxiety
confusion and
something.
anxiety and pain and fear and all of those things, you wouldn't have been able to help him.
Yeah.
And you helped him because you had faith and you loved him and he knew it.
That's good. And I spent a lot of time with him and his lovely wife, Lorraine, that week, and it was an important chapter in my life. So Sally, tell us about your relationship to Swami. I remember Sally and I had been blessed to be, once we got introduced to Swami, and I don't know how it happened, but we did get an interview with him. And when I walked into the room, Swami, Sally and I were together with Swami, he makes some vibhuti and he gives it to her, and she said, I want to give some to Jack. He said, no, you're the one that's sick, not Jack. You don't need to give it to him. And he had a look on his face like she was his long lost sister or something. And there was like this rapport. And he hit me on the head and said, she's a good woman, be happy. Happy, happy, happy. So anyway, on the way out, he tosses her a robe, and she's got his robe, which is right by our altar right now. So so Sally, and then her relationship with him just kept growing. So Sally has, I don't know, a special relationship with this beautiful goddess. So tell us about it a little bit.
I don't even know where to begin. Let me start with meeting Swami, which was the result of, as Jack pointed out, seeing him on a screen at a retreat. When we got to India and we were in his presence in the ashram, I knew that everything I felt about him was true, that he was indeed a magnificent God who has blessed this world with his presence and made a world of difference. And I'm also very grateful that living here in America and, being not a part of the Indian society in the beginning, I feel so blessed because I was introduced to it and we both got a chance to get to know some remarkable, beautiful people from the Sai Center. And that gave us a family. It really made a difference in our lives, and it still does make a difference in our lives. A Sai family to us is family. And Swami to us is our mother, father, God. I don't know how else to explain it except to say that he has given us challenges, but he's also given us a world of love, kindness, service, caring, things that make a difference. And we will always be grateful for what we've been given, and we will always look up to it to the best of our abilities. We'll try always to love all and serve all as he's taught, and help ever, hurt never. We'll always try to be who we really are, children of this divine being. And there's not much more that we would want in life. Everything else falls into place exactly as it's supposed to, and we're at peace with that.
It's beautiful, Sally. Kindness rules the day. And kindness is contagious. There was a story about a guy in New York that used to go out of his apartment, and every time he got out, everybody saw he smiled and said hello to. And somebody figured out that guy every day changed about 1,000 lives because it just kept accelerating. He was kind, next person was kind, and it's like it spreads. And there was a guy in New York not too long ago, maybe 20 years ago, who was president of a small company. And he started giving out money to the poor people, and he was running out of money. He didn't have enough dollar bills or whatever he was giving out. So he went home one night, and he and his wife made 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So the next day he goes out, and he gets no refusals, and he gives out his 100. After work, he walks around and gives 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to the poor people of New York. For the next 15 years, every Monday through Friday, that guy and his wife made 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And he gave them out every day. Can you imagine the love that guy had and what he did to change the vibrations of the planet? I mean, it's right there. And we get that from the Sai Center all the time and from everybody. We're so fortunate. I know my son Dan and his wife Martha, they used to bring food home, but he insisted in the beginning, you're not going anywhere. And every week he lugged the groceries up, and he had to go from Louisville. He's got a busy job, and he did it. Finally, after about, I think 3 or 4 months, we finally said, we're going stir crazy. We'll start shopping at 6 o'clock in the morning. But until we gave him a break, but he masked whatever we needed. And then one day, Jayanti texts Sally and said, do you have any masks? And she says, no. Next thing I know, Srina's in a parking lot with a bunch of masks. 10 minutes later. Wow. And then Jay Sri Saluki comes up and gives us more masks. And Manny, I was by his house the other day. He said, your masks aren't good enough. And he gives me surgical masks. And then Sunil Patel gives Melanie a bunch of links to get your vaccination. And Melanie gives it to us, and we get a link, and before you know it, we got vaccinated. Last a month ago, and we got a second vaccination this Friday.
Yeah.
So, and you just think about just two people and what we've experienced, and you times that by all the people in the Science Center and all the people in the world, like the food bank people and the people that are giving out Doctors Without Borders and people that are working on vaccines. And you think about all the good that's done in the world, and we tend to focus on, well, this guy said this or this guy said that. We're in divisiveness, and it's true. But underneath that, there's an enormous amount of love that's making the world better.
And I'd like to hop in here for a moment and say, if that isn't Swami in action, I don't know what is. It's just when you describe that, Jack, I can feel Swami's presence. And I know that that's what the Sai Center is all about. The Sai Center isn't about us, it's about Swami. It's about being love in action. And Swami walked through every day serving, being love in action, kindness. And those were things that even in the churches that I went to over the years, none of them had anything near what we learned from Swami and saw in Swami. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, I want to talk about another thing now, if I could, and that was my son Jamie's passing little less than 2 years ago. He wasn't feeling good, but we didn't see it coming. He's an African-American lad that we adopted when he was 10 months old, and he's been one of the great loves of my life. And I love to go to Las Vegas and sit on his patio, and we think great thoughts till 3 o'clock in the morning. And he just died. 3 kids, a wife. And I didn't know quite how to handle it. First thought was, that's not fair. Kid's not supposed to die before his father. Second thought was, why? And then finally, I just surrendered, and I said, this is the way it is. So I surrendered to you, Swami. Whatever has to happen. Took me a while. It wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy. But we surrendered, and so when I was totally surrendered, that gave me a little bit of divine confidence, because I was confident that Sal and I were both ordained ministers in Universal Brotherhood, and I had access to all kind of funeral services and stuff. And I said, we could throw him a funeral, a good one, and a nice one, and one that's joyful. And so we went about it, and I actually did see it as a divine adventure. And we went about it. My children got involved. Dan, who was a Marine, helped with all of it. Jamie's was a Marine. He was a combat veteran. We come from a family of proud patriots. My grandfather was did combat in World War I, and I had 5 uncles, serious combat in World War II, brother in Vietnam. Twin brother Jim was in Wildfleck in Germany, and I was, we were both first lieutenants in the Army. I was a first lieutenant during the Cuban crisis. And then Danny, my oldest son, was a combat pilot in the first Persian Gulf War, and his brother Jamie was a private first class in the first Persian Gulf War, and both of them are combat veterans. So we set about to get a nice cemetery that took care of veterans. And Dan took care of a lot of the military stuff, getting the Marine Corps stuff ready and honor guards and everything else. And Katie took care of the music and helped compose the thing. And my son Michael took care of all the food, and Jamie's wife Kristen took care of making sure we had the burial and everything else in the cemetery, and he was cremated. And so then off we went to Las Vegas. It took about a month before we put everything together, and you had to schedule the cemetery. And it was really interesting. Ahearns came from all over the globe. I mean, there was, I mean, not that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but from all over the place. And Jamie was loved. He was a character. He didn't have a mean bone in his body, and everybody loved Jamie. And so everybody, and they got a lot of friends from the Marines that came in, and it was just a glorious, glorious service. And I believe that this incarnation is like a blink of the eye, less than 1/10 of 1% of all eternity we're going to be serving. And I believe that Jamie is on his journey. And I had to figure out a way to capture that and to make sure that I said it at the funeral. So I came across a poem by Henry Van Dyke. And the name of the poem is I Am Standing Upon the Seashore. And here's the way it goes. I am standing upon the seashore, a ship at my side, spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She's an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sky and the sea come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, there, she is gone. Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mass, hull and spar as she was when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, there, she is gone, there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, here she comes. And that's Jamie going on to the next chapter in his life. And after I said that poem, he was with me and he was with her, and I could, with all of us, I could feel his presence. So we had the bagpipes. You have to have bagpipes in the Ahearn family. If someone dies or someone gets married. And Danny insisted that it was Marine hymn that played, and we all followed, went to the cemetery, and we followed to his gravesite with the Marine Corps hymn. And then we went back to his house and had a glorious party and toasted Jamie with many, many people. And I'm not going to say it's easy. He's got 3 kids. Sally and I keep in touch with him regularly. We're helping the kids. My daughter Katie's also helping. They're virtual, so she's tutoring them. And it is what it is, but we got through it. And once again, I learned from it. I think I seem to learn all my lessons on difficult things. I don't think I learn anything when it's easy. And one of the things that's really easy is for me in this chaotic world is to go for walks with Sally. Now you can't, it's really interesting, kind of hard to describe a walk with Sally. And it really is. We stopped to walk, it's cold out. Sally, why are you stopping? There's a bug here. I have to pick him up. He's going to die. Someone's going to stop. Okay. And then 10 minutes later, she stopped again. Why are you stopping? Well, this is a rock. Someone's going to trip on it. Okay. So then we're moving along, and she said, look at that branch over there. I said, well, it's a branch. It's green. She said, no, look closer. So I looked closer, and she said, look at the drops of dew, and look how they sparkle in the sunshine. And it's like a whole new world. So now every day, Sally and I go for a nature walk, 1.5 miles every day, and we see all kinds of egrets and stuff. But that's not all. We got this squirrel that comes around, and we've named her Shirley. And Shirley likes almonds. But, almonds are expensive. They're twice as expensive as peanuts. So I said, can't Shirley have peanuts? And so I don't know, she has to have almonds. So one day I put a bunch of peanuts out, and Shirley went like this. And at the back window, open door we have that's all glass, and for like an hour and a half till I put some almonds up. So Shirley's got us right where she wants us, and I think all the animals have Sally where she wants it. But her communion with nature and her walks are incredible. Why don't you tell them about it?
Oh my golly, Jack has described it really well. Walking in nature is a gift for me. It's a gift of the gods that gave us this beautiful planet. It's a gift that allows me to let go of the details that come on the TV during the news, the challenges we face just going through life. And instead, I watch these beautiful creatures, the ducks down the creek right by us, and you see them moving quickly. And if you look into the water, you see their little feet paddling like mad. But on top, they're just as calm as can be. And they dive into the water to go get something. And we tend to feed them from time to time. And we're very blessed. We live in a place that's right on a big creek, and there's a beautiful tree out back. Beautiful tree.
We've named him Tex.
Yeah, his name is Tex, yes. And so we have birds that come in onto our patio to have breakfast, and we have, we walk downstairs and there we are right on the creek bed, and we throw food out for the creatures in there, the turtles and the fish and the birds that come and swoop it up. And it's a nice life. We've had a lot going on in our lives, a lot. And we're retired now. And there's this wonderful sense of calm that comes with living a quieter life that doesn't require an alarm clock going off at 6:30 in the morning and getting your child or children ready for school and getting them to school or to the bus and then dashing into, get ready for work. And those things are all behind us now. And so we have this wonderful time together, Jack and I. I think part of it's loving each other as much as we do, but we have this time together where we appreciate what God's created.
One day we were walking and she looked at the clouds. Look at those clouds. I said, they're clouds. What do you mean? Oh, no. Look at the movement, and look at how this is going here. And over here, it looks like a mountaintop. And right there is Swami's paintbrush. And it's like, Sally's opened up a whole new world for me. I was never really observant in nature. I was always walking to try to ease some stress or something. What's the matter? Why did this guy say to get where I was going? And now I take these leisurely walks, and we look at white herons, blue herons,
both,
and egrets, and she's figured out where the bunny rabbits are. We see them, and yes,
bird's nests.
Right in the middle of the cold walk, she'll stop and pick up a leaf for Swami's altar. Right, all the time.
All the time.
So anyway, we have
especially
fun
in the fall when they're so pretty. Swami gets nice leaves.
So anyway, Sally has taught me a lot about nature, and also how to stay calm in a pandemic environment and a chaotic world. And I will say that yes, we're retired, but when Sally was working, she did the same thing every chance she got. And you don't have to be retired to enjoy nature.
No.
We don't. So anyway,
just look outside, look at the tree. You'll find a nest being built there. Look at, the grass, or, you might see a lizard or a frog or whatever you have. And
Sally always does anyway. Look at that lizard over there. Where is he? I don't see him.
I'm pretty fond of Mother Nature, as Jack's pointed out.
Well, you're one with it. I like to talk a little bit about a meditation that I was, and Sally and I were doing. Vijay and Aruna Sampas introduced us to a meditation from Dr. Sola, who was one of my heroes. Every time I see something on Dr. Sola's meditation, I listen to it, I learn and grow. And this meditation is basically as universal as it comes. You sit still, and then you look at your city and the surrounding areas, and you put every creature in that area inside your heart, and you love them. Doesn't matter if it's a tree, a bird, a rat, a squirrel, people, whatever. And you just love everything, that all creation in that area. And then you expand it, and you love those states you're in, like in others would be the state of Texas. And you love everything. And then it goes on, and you start to think, oh, I can go longer than that. How about the United States of America? And you start thinking about loving everybody in the United States of America. And then you say, well, let's do the world. And then you start loving all creation in the world, including the oceans, all creatures, Mother Earth. Then you go to the galaxies and you connect with all the stars. And then you go to the universe and you connect with the universe, and you go to cosmos and you connect with all creation. You know, when I first started doing that meditation, I thought, well, take it till I make it. I guess I'm one with them. Okay, I'll do it. And then when I did it a couple more times, I started to have a little reverence toward all creation. And now, after doing it about 3 times a day for 6 months, I'm actually feeling one with all creation. And it's pretty hard to feel one with all creation and be so partisan you can hardly talk. And so it's really hard to, now you don't have to like everybody. My favorite quote from Swami, my favorite quote is love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. But one of my favorite quotes is Swami says, some people make you cry when they pass away, and others make you cry when they pass you away. And so what I got out of that is that you don't have to like everybody, but you have to love everybody. And if you find someone that's deplorable, you don't have to go on a picnic with them, but you have to love them. And that's the, and that meditation has really helped me in my spiritual journey. It was years ago when I was young, there was a song, I think it was called Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog. And one of the verses in the song was, joy to the world, all you boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, and joy to you and me. And whoever wrote those lyrics knew about Dr. Solo's meditation before Dr. Solo was born, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot out there that we have to be joyful about and happy about. So anyway, that's how I feel about that meditation. And we all do meditations in our own way. You know, we there's a Maypole meditation, and there's the Jodi meditation. There's Sohams, which you might talk about a little later. There's a whole bunch of meditations. And my counsel is to use and reuse what works for you. Sally sits down with Swami and gets a topic and looks at it in a dictionary, and then spends the next half hour connecting with Swami and to see what that topic means. Maybe it's divine love, it could be divine service, it could be divine harmony, whatever. And she does one a day, 4 a week, I guess, right?
At least,
So,
maybe more.
so we all have our way of doing it. And I think the key is consistency, and also that it's joyful.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It is.
if a guy's sitting on a mountain, it's 45 degrees below zero, and he's got icicles on his beard, that's not the model I can deal with. I mean, it's okay with some people, but I'd rather see somebody smiling, and the bliss of it to me is wonderful. So once again, I think we should use and reuse what works for us.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And about 22 years ago, my daughter Katie introduced Sally and I to Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh is, as I said, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And these guys were prayed for everybody in the Vietnam War, and they finally got kicked out because they wouldn't take sides. They just didn't care. He just loved everybody. So this guy had he's 95 now. He's pretty close to passing. And he had an ashram, I guess, in Plum Village, and then Katie went there a couple of times. They have one in California too. And he wrote a lot of books on mindfulness. Sally, you spent a week with him there at a retreat in California, and he, one of the things he did and said, one of the books I read, has really changed my attitude about gratitude. You know, I used to write something on the piece of paper, and when I wrote it on a piece of paper, I'd say, "Thank God for the paper." You know what Thich Nhat Hanh said? Thank you for the sky, the beautiful sky. And thank you for the clouds in the sky. And thank you for the rain that's forming in the clouds in the sky. Thank you for the rain. Thank you for the soil. Thank you for the seeds of the tree. And thank you for the tree for growing. And thank you for the people that harvested this tree so I can write this letter. And when you stop and think about that, I mean, this guy opened up a whole new area for me for gratitude. And I talk to people a lot, side devotees, other devotees. And we talk about gratitude. And there are some people that write gratitude journal, part of the journey every day. I know a lady with a 9-year-old son, and they share their gratitude journal with each other every night, 5 things of gratitude. So if we have time tonight, maybe, just maybe you, when you call in and have a question or two, you might tell us what you're grateful for. I'm grateful because I just went to the lung doctor, and somehow or other my lungs have suddenly gotten better. I don't know how. I do some self-healing on them, but my lungs were in pretty bad shape about 2 years ago. And now they're just about clean. How it happened, I don't know, but I'm thankful. So, Sally, would you read that piece you did again about spirituality and the chaotic world?
I'd be happy to. Spirituality in the time of a chaotic world. Spirituality is a gift given to mankind by God. It is the soul of our being. It is the seat of our moral and religious nature, entering through our mind or intellect and residing in our heart and our soul. Spirituality is the seat of our feelings, which prompt us to action, serving those in need, saving those who are lost. As our beloved Swami has taught us, we must love all and serve all, especially in times of chaos and trouble. Why? Because chaos, by definition, is the state of utter confusion, creating disorder, upheaval, perplexity, complication, and discouragement. And trouble, which chaos can create, disturbs the mental calm and contentment of the soul, creating worry, distress, annoyance, and conflict, which only worsen the situation and upset those involved even more. So, as you can see, our spirituality is a critical component of ourselves and our lives. We must not forget its value and importance, especially in times of trouble and chaos. Satya Sai Baba was and is a great teacher of calmness. His walk, his talk, his touch, his tone. His tone was always calm. Chaos never touched him. Why? Perhaps because he resided in his true nature, his divinity, a place untouched by the chaos of the world. Shirdi Sai Baba was the same as was Christ Michael, Jesus, or the Buddha, or other great gods who have walked among us. They knew how to be in chaos. And they taught us how to lead by example. By following their example, it led us to be an example of it. So as we walk our path in this chaotic world, we must remember the gift given us by the gods to know who we really are, children of gods, and to choose carefully our thoughts, words, and deeds as free. Only then will we be me, a child of God, walking my spiritual path.
I don't think we could top that with anything else. So I'm going to turn it back over. If anybody has any questions, that would be good. And we've said what we had to say, and we're just grateful for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much.
Om Shri Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram.
Thank you, Jack and Sally. Thanks for those deep insights into this one. Now, the forum is open for asking questions, and I request the participants to unmute yourself before asking a question so that Jack and Sally would be happy to answer you. Jack, I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
This is a chaotic world, and day to day, you go through so many situations, and some of the situations put you under a lot of pressure, tension, and you get upset with yourself first, and then if the problem is not resolved, you get upset with the God himself. In such a time, you don't spare anyone. You're totally upset. Your mind will stop working. In such a case, how can you focus back on Swami and get into the right frame of mind?
It's a great question. You know, we have two natures. We have our human nature, and we have our divine nature. And the human nature is ego and the mind, and our higher consciousness is in our divine nature. And sometimes you just have to connect to your divine nature. And when you connect to your divine nature, all the stuff you talked about that we all get involved in is ego. And so it's really easy to talk about it. It's very hard to do when you're subjectively involved, but it's possible. And we're on our journey, and we're all students, and we're all learning. But each situation, if we see it as an adventure, and we try to take a deep breath and say, who am I? And why am I getting so upset because the lady in the checkout can't figure out how to open up a drawer, and there's 3 people ahead of me, and I'm going to have to wait here for 10 minutes. I have choices. I can connect to my divine nature, and I can send love to those people, right? Mm-hmm. Or I could just turn right around and be angry and frustrated and stomp around and make life miserable. And so we have all these choices all day long. And there are many ways to connect to your higher self. And Swami has said over and over again, Namasmarana, saying God's name over and over and over again is a way to do it. And that's one of the things that helps me. And that's not unique to Hinduism. When I was a little kid in the Catholic Church, the nuns used to have us doing Jesus, Mary, and Joseph be my guide over and over and over again, to the point where you just started to believe it after a while. So I think it's a wonderful question. I think the answer is to do the best you can to connect to your higher self. And the more you do that, and the more your higher self grows, the more godlike you become. And we're the only creatures, as you all know, that have the ability of males to actually go from God to man. I mean, from man to God, excuse me. So that's the way I would answer that question. Hope it helps.
Thank you. Thanks for that one, actually.
It's your brother up there. Jim Ahearn. Hi, Jim. Can't hear you.
That's right.
I think, Jim, you are on mute, so you need to unmute yourself.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wanted one of the things that I'm grateful for is my twin brother Jack and his beautiful wife Sally. and with so many other things, but I wanted to speak about Sai Baba for a minute. I'm active in the Catholic Christian mode, but Jack introduced me to Sai Baba, and I read a few of his books, and I pray to him every day. I get into some deep meditation about trying to help us move as a species into much greater spiritual beings, so we can move into what I think is the fifth dimension, where there's peace and love. And we're a long ways from that. And I have all kinds of guides I pray to, but now every single day I pray to Sai Baba, and I ask him, because I'm in the Christian mode, and I have ascended masters I pray to. I ask Sai Baba, can you bring the Eastern mystics and guides and spiritual beings into this meditation and this prayer, so it can be more well-rounded. So thanks to Jack, who introduced me to Sai Baba, it's really rounded me, given me a much greater, just a wider view of spirituality. And I want to thank the Sai Baba Center and all of you for the tremendous work you're doing. I learned it through Jack and Sally, but the work you're doing with the young men and women, it's just incredible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks,
That was
Jim.
beautiful.
Thank you, Jim, for sharing that one.
My pleasure.
Jay Shree.
Sarah, I have a question on letting go, because I know sometimes we get really crazy in our thinking in this crazy world of ours. And I find that something that I'm working on is letting go. So if you can go ahead and expand on letting go, because sometimes I think we can get involved in so many things that I'm also learning is sometimes we have to really butt out and remember, like, it's none of my business. And we kind of get pulled into other situations which we don't want to be in. And I think sometimes we have to learn to let it go. So if you can expand on that.
Boy, that's an interesting question. Thanks, Jay Shree. Letting go is sometimes it's a challenge. You know, sometimes you're in a situation or a situation that comes to you that you have to deal with that it's hard to let go of. But then if you step away, just step away for a little while and begin to look at the situation from a distance, I think it becomes easier to say, do I want to be engaged in this or do I not? And if I don't want to be engaged with it, I can then begin to let go of that circumstance, that relationship, that colleague that's driving you crazy or whatever it is, and begin to say, okay, that's how they're dealing with the topic or life or whatever. And it's not how I see it. And someplace along the line, your piece and then let it go. And if you say your piece and let it go, if possible, then you can sort of just walk away from it. Does that help you a little bit?
Kind of. Anyway, yeah, thank you. I have to work on it more.
Well, we all do.
I think that's a way of our life.
I like what Sally said about distancing yourself. And of course, the other thing that's, I guess, everything is you connect to your higher self, and everybody's on their journey. And some people are, you know, are people that we want to love from afar.
Yeah, not right there, but just keep them in your prayers.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope that helps.
Does that help a little bit?
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks for the
Great to see you
question.
all.
Good to see you, Jayashree.
Jack, I have a question. This is Shyam.
Okay. Hi, John.
See, you shared a few experiences. Now, I just have a question. Sometimes when you go through an experience and you feel that you learned something or you handle it in this way, how does it feel if the same experience comes a little bit down the road? Are you able to give it the same, and are you able to give it an enlightened response that you picked up from the last time? It's a similar type of experience, challenge, experience or challenge. Or you again go through the same motion of, going through the pain, anguish, or whatever it is, and then trying to get a grip on your mind? Or are you able to, I've encountered this before, I see it coming, or, and then just take it smoothly. How is it? Is it
I
easy?
think it gets a little easier, Sean.
Uh-huh.
I think that every one of these things you go through, if you go through it through the lens of divine courage, divine confidence, and divine adventure, and you develop that modus operandi, so to speak, but the next time it isn't quite as bad. And the other thing is, with each one of these things, that if we do them the way we're supposed to do them, our vibrations grow. And Swami says, most of the growth that comes from this tough stuff, not the ice cream cones. And so I think, I'm not saying the situation gets any easier, but I think we handle it a little bit better. I honestly, truly believe the situation I had with Jim when he was dying, and he didn't die, thank God, helped me with the situation with Jamie. It was just as painful, but at the same time, I had more spirituality and more growth to deal with. I don't know if that helps or not.
No, absolutely. I think you answered it spot on. Thank you. And thanks for relating the two experiences, one with Jim and one with Jamie. Quite painful actually, and I really congratulate you that you all, able to handle that. I don't think I would have done very well in that situation. I can be very honest with you. It's, I don't know, for all my attempts in, trying to progress in spirituality, death is something that I've not handled very well. I'll be frank about that.
May I comment on that?
Say that again.
May I comment on that?
Oh, yes, please, by all means. Yes.
I think what you're saying makes absolute sense. It's not easy to deal with death, especially of a loved one. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I was a teenager, I was driving. Dad wasn't feeling well. Mom said, we need to go to the hospital, to the emergency room. They had me drive. They sat in the back seat. We got to the emergency room. We went in, the three of us. I parked the car and came in. Mom and Dad, I dropped them off. They went in. And when I walked in there, Dad was sitting on the bench. Mom had apparently gone in to sign Dad in. And I went to sit next to him, and he literally keeled over and died at that moment. That is something you never want to experience. You don't want to experience it with your parents. You don't want to experience it with your child. You don't want to experience it with anybody that you love or anybody at all. But the only thing I learned at that point, the only thing that you can do is just stay as deeply in your true self, your godly self, the part of you that connects with Swami, for instance. And you go in there and you just take a deep breath and say, okay, this isn't something I had control of. This is something I can't change. This is something that is really difficult, but it is what it is. And all I can do is be by my mother and give her love. Send love to my father, who's now on his way, on his path. Support my sister, who is at home and has no idea what just happened. And when we get home, we have to tell her, and we just begin to see it as, you know, we talk about this topic, spirituality in the time of a chaotic world. That doesn't mean just the world. It also means our little world. And we have to find a way to deal with that. And I really, truly believe that the most important way we can deal with it is to go to God. So for us, that's go to Swami. For others, it's prayers at church, whatever it is, we go to them and say, how do we sustain this in a difficult time?
You know, to Sally's point and to your point, it's tough.
It is.
You know, the great one, Sai Baba, cried like a baby when his elephant Sai Gita died. I mean, he absolutely got there just before the elephant was dying. And those two were close. They were tight. And Swami was talking to him and the tears were coming down his eyes. And it's not easy. And I think the poem that I read about Jamie really helped me from the standpoint that we can't see him, someone else, he's joining someone else right now. He's on his journey. And if we see it as a journey that's everlasting and growth oriented, and the soul's going where he or she's supposed to be, it makes it a little bit easier.
There's a piece here too, in terms of how to handle grief, because I do some work with people who are dying, and there's no easy way, but if people can express their emotions and let their feelings come out, and sometimes they need to go to counseling for that, it really helps them along the way. This is a tough journey, not easy.
Thanks, Jim.
That's true, Jim. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on that?
I have a question, Sairam.
Saram.
Wonderful, connection to Swami and your experiences. Thank you for sharing them.
You're welcome.
You mentioned that, you were attracted to Swami and Swami's teachings and the universal nature of his divinity. And I have, my own path too. Swami has its struggle, and because I come from a different background. I come from Hinduism, and whether many gods, and fortunately for me, I was a great devotee of Lord Krishna from a very young age, and I think it was just by chance. And I approached Swami in a very I am a professor actually, and I question everything, and that's my nature. That's a part of being a researcher. Actually, you question everything, and but I also there came a point where I went beyond science, beyond questioning, and I could feel Swami. I could feel his teachings. I could feel his presence at times. Not all the time, but at times. You have approached it from a different, viewpoint, Christianity, Catholicism, and I'm sure you had your own challenges as you began to accept Swami as God and divinity himself. Share with us some of Sarah, you briefly mentioned about it, that you could not find this in your own church. I think you meant it in a very broad sense. I'm sure there are people who are connected to Jesus within your church and see him as Swami. I see Jesus as Swami also. I mean, that's the way I look at it. There's only one God. There can't be, there's only one divine being. Give us a sense of how you approached it, and because as we approach God, our own background is very different. I migrated to this country 36 years ago, and it took me a while to get grounded. And now I love this country. It's become my country now. the honesty, the integrity, especially in the last, 2-3 weeks have been very challenging. And, I've questioned a lot of things, but I've come to realize that there is basic honesty, integrity, and in everyday human beings and in America. And I think spirituality informs us of these in a very subtle way. And I want you to dwell on it and, touch upon that and tell us a little more about how you approached and how Swami, Swami enables everything, of course, we don't realize it, but it happens over time and, as you grow spiritually. So could you share that with us, please? I'm sorry I made this so long-winded, but that's how professors are. Not so much.
Okay, so
Just tell them how you.
Hold on one second.
See, we were searching. And so we didn't have a lot of trouble doubting Swami. We were searching, and all of a sudden he shows up in our lap.
Yeah.
And Sally knew right away, right?
Right away.
Tell them about it.
Yeah, it's when we were doubting, we weren't doubting Swami. We were just unsure of what this was all about. It was so different than what we grew up with in the Christian churches that we were each in. He was in the Catholic church. I was in an Episcopal
But
church.
before we started, Sally had me go to a different church every week for 3 years trying to find out. And all of a sudden we see Swami and Sally said, that's it.
Yep.
And she just
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Really?
yes, that's precisely what happened. I had stopped going to church because I got tired of listening to sermons, and that's kind of a sad commentary, but that's what happened. I certainly appreciated Sunday school when I was a child. That was good, but I didn't know quite what to do because it didn't touch my heart. I think that's the best way to say it. So your question is a good one, because one of the things that happened when we went to open space and we saw Swami walking across the screen in this video that this person had made, it was
It's magic.
yeah, it was earth-shattering for us, if that's maybe another way of saying it, because for some reason we knew that was a path that we needed to explore. It was important to us, and we did, and we were so glad we did. And then we realized we wanted to go and see this great God in person, which is something you could never do in the Episcopal Church because Jesus was long gone. And so you were relying on a minister that was doing his or her best to speak to you. But when you get in Swami's presence, when he was on the planet, it was remarkable. I don't know what else to say. It proved what we had felt when we watched him. It proved to be so true that he was a God walking on earth. It was a gift, just as Jesus was a gift. It was a gift just like the Buddha was a gift. And those gifts don't come along all the time, and they don't all come in one place. There are different religions that are true religions, like the ones we're talking about, where their God is what guides them and teaches them and shows them a path that I'm not sure you would get otherwise. I don't think it's the same. Maybe it is. I've never known an agnostic. I've never known a person that doesn't have a belief in God in some form. But I do know from personal experience that it's all really important. It doesn't matter what the religion is. If it's a true religion, it's important. And you just have to choose the path that makes sense for you.
In our particular case, I think Swami chose us, right?
Yeah.
We were looking and looking, and he dumped right. He was right. And all of a sudden, he was there.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. And Sally said, "That's it." I said, "You sure?" She said, "Yeah." She knew it faster than I did.
Yeah, I just knew right away, and I don't know how I knew right away, but boy, oh boy, I did. And it changed our lives.
Now, we haven't had
forever.
many doubts to the early point of your question. There's been you know, we've had to adjust to all Indian bhajans, and you know, and the culture shift was helped by many beautiful Sai people.
Yes.
So our adjustment has been
From Christianity to
almost
individual.
cultural, but we never had a problem with Swami. We knew right from the start, Sally first, then me, and so we never stopped believing in him. And the thing is we take his robe out many times, touch it, and you know,
we have, and it's actually right over our shoulder here, our own little puja room. And we individually sit here and do our work. And I mean our spiritual work. We do our work and we connect as best we can. We do our prayers as best we can. We ask for help as best we can when there's a crisis. And it's a little place inside of our lives that's so sacred that it feels like Swami is right there.
it's almost like the vibrations are higher there.
Yeah, it really is. It's a remarkable thing. It's not unlike going to church and being in a place that has a beautiful connectedness with it. But for us, it's really helpful because we can get up in the morning and go sit there in the chair and be connected to the best of our ability so that we feel the oneness and we seek the guidance and we get a chance to thank Swami and thank God for all that we've been given in what is a very typical life. In, you know, we have a good life and we have a lovely family and we have our Sai community family, and we're both healthy right now. Not an easy thing as you get older. And all through all of that, all I can say is it's Swami in action.
Hope that answers your good question.
Yeah, very good question.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to both of you for sharing your experiences. Jack, you actually moderated a session with young adults recently.
Yes.
That's the first time. Jim, right? Not Jack. See, I get your names appear differently here. Sally, your name appears as Sarah Schaefer.
As it is Sarah, but it's Sally.
Okay.
There's a long story behind that, which I will not give you right now.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Jack, you know, you moderated the session. It was wonderful. You know, we got a chance to listen to our son-in-law, Ranjan Upadhyaya, and it was remarkable to see young people get into Sai fold so early and get into thinking about spirituality. I think at that age, you know, if they are just aware of the spirituality, that's more than sufficient. Acceptance comes later. So as you rightly pointed out, you know, Swami, if we take one step towards Swami, he takes 100 steps towards us and shows the path. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I could talk forever on the value of the Sai educational program, and not only what it does to the kids right now and the parents and the teachers and the community, but what happens 20 years later when these kids are out in the world doing good things.
Yes, absolutely.
And living good lives.
Yes,
They've all
yes.
been taught how to live a really good life. And I don't mean a good life, a lot of money. I mean a good life by service, kindness, understanding, and all the things that Swami taught us.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, human values and the education that comes through Balvikas is tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing all your experiences
It's our
with us.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satish, for your question. And also, like Sally, as you have mentioned, Swami has mentioned long time back that, you know, you don't have to look for God in one physical location. You need to bring him to your place, to your heart.
Sure.
So, yeah, whether it's a church or your puja room or it's your heart, basically you need to bring him here and install there itself. fantastic answer. Thank you for both of you. And we are running a little over the time, so I would like to appreciate all the participants. You are very enthusiastic in asking questions. To be frank with you, actually, we have not anticipated this many questions, so thanks for that one. May I request Shyamji to go ahead with the closing remarks?
Sairam, Jack and Sally, and Sairam to everyone, and Jim, a good shout out to you as well, brother. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And just as before I get to thanking Jack and Sally, I would like to assure Jim that just as Jack introduced you to Sai and you pray to him now, likewise, Swami introduced me to Jesus. Okay, and that's a story for another time, probably. But what I'm trying to say is it's all one. Okay, and basically, just as you mentioned that you're in your prayers, you ask for Eastern guides or ascended masters to come and visit with you. That's your prayer to the Lord. So also, maybe I didn't pray for that, but I asked for some guidance. And so I'm irresistibly drawn to Jesus, Mother Mary, and that's another story for another time. But I wanted to let you know that it goes both ways. So
Thank you so much.
it goes both ways, sir. And it was done by Sai Baba himself to me. It's not that somebody else. It is so he himself acknowledges that he is everyone, and it's all one. So just to reflect on that for a minute here. And I'd like to, I cannot thank Jack and Sally enough. We've, in the Dallas Sai Center especially, we've been very, very blessed to know them, have them as long-standing members of the Sai Center, and their presence is very, very serene. They bring that calm there's this calm about them, there's this love about them, there is this peaceful aura around them. And even if they don't say anything, or even if it's a quick hi, that makes your day actually. And it is because whatever the topic they chose for today, practicing spirituality in a chaotic world, is what they actually live on a day-to-day basis. And I think, Sally, you started it off beautifully by giving, and also ended your talk beautifully by that passage that you read out on spirituality, which is a gift from the gods to us humans. And the beauty of that, what you told us was that if we can focus on who we really are, and we understand that we are essentially divine beings, then already we are at a safe space. It's almost like if chaos is like a storm, then knowing who you really are is like being at the eye of the storm, where you can watch everything as a witness. So you can be in that safe space, and that's where you mentioned, and that you can simply be, and you gave the examples of Jesus, Sai Baba, Shirdi Baba, and many other great souls who have walked this earth, from all traditions, from all backgrounds, Buddha, anybody. So that was beautiful. And what Jack next told us was to make a shift in our perception. Instead of thinking that we are fighting with this chaos, think of it as a divine adventure. Yeah. So when you see it in a different light, then it makes a whole new meaning. It takes on a whole new meaning for you. And then the notions of surrender, of divine courage, all of these come to your aid. And that's what he told. And again, they don't automatically happen in your life. You can't simply say, oh, okay, now I surrender to God in this moment. Well, it doesn't happen that way, because the next moment something will come to irritate you, trouble you, and you'll be back to your old self. If, as you said towards the end of your talk, if you're not mindful, and you mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh and the mindfulness, and you talked about the attitude of gratitude, how he took it to a whole new level. And also your meditation on encompassing all beings within your perception. And it's not just in the meditation. You all actually did that in your daily morning walks, the 1.5 mile walks. which probably take very, very long time simply because you're busy saving every bug that comes your way, or
That's
moving every
right.
stone that may
Yes.
trip somebody else up, or watching every branch and the dew that's falling off of it, or every little insect that may be, there. So it's not just that you visualize everything as part of you, but you actually respond to it as part of you. And that's where, the connecting with nature, encompassing, feeling that oneness. And if you, since you quoted Thich Nhat Hanh, they, in their tradition, they call it interbeing or interconnectedness. So that was beautiful. Now, again, this is not so easy. And that's why I asked you that question. You learn some lessons, but then again, you have an experience later on, which again calls for the same lessons. And you beautifully mentioned about how you learn to gradually surrender and to accept and to be peaceful when Brother Jim had that, fell in the ditch and hurt himself badly, and it was getting severe. His condition was severe when you were trying to fly out there to Rochester. And then, well, fortunately, we are having him here today to talk to us and share with us his presence and his beautiful journey himself. But then you also shared the very trying circumstances of, dealing with Jamie's loss. And that's when I really admire you, because I simply cannot handle these things. Personally, I'm telling you, myself, I'm just a very, very poor version of myself when it comes to these things. But then and then the poem that you read about Henry Dyke, which was about the ship and the comparison that you made, it's sailing out of sight, but actually it's appearing in somebody else's sight. And it's still the same ship. So also you shared about how Jamie was leaving this realm, but he was entering another realm. And therefore there was no break as such in that. It is just that we need to understand that. And you answered beautifully to Sister Jayeshi Solanki about letting go. So death is all about having to know how to let go as well. And you talked through that beautifully. But you mentioned how it's a daily thing. How can we do? You gave us like a toolkit actually for handling chaos. How we can, one is in spirituality, we know that in spirit, we know that we are one with God, we are the divine. Then we slowly develop surrender and serenity. And then we expand our love, as you put it beautifully, Sally, love in action. And you gave the example of the gentleman who he and his wife initially gave out money, but then later on they gave out 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 15 years every day of their life. And so how that scope of love goes on increasing. And so instead of being narrow and thinking of me and my problems, you're talking about how that love expands. And I think all of these different tools that you shared, how to commune with nature, how to be part of it, how to be grateful for everything, give a perspective on how to handle chaos. And we cannot be, anything that I say to tell you that we are grateful to you would be understating the fact that you all helped us see these things. And again, come back to square one, as in come back to basics. Be mindful, be loving, be thankful, be grateful, encompass all into your life, and know that we are all connected. And you gave the example of the Sai family, but you're very correct. You shared about the Doctors Without Borders, you talked about the food bank and many other places. What you're saying is that is a common feature of all humanity. And so we have to grow into welcoming everybody, no matter whom they worship or their lifestyle or anything. And this breaking down those barriers is something that you also shared today with us. I think that's very, very important, because previously, why I mentioned that was sometime back, whenever we had a few other things like SARS or Ebola or something, we always thought it was somebody else's problem in some other part of the world. And we went about our life merrily. But then now when this COVID came, it becomes everybody's problem. It's all across the world. But I think God had to bring that in a way so that we all realize that we are all connected. Otherwise, we're not grateful to him at all. We think it's somebody else's, and we live our life insensitive to their suffering. But here now, he's saying, you didn't get the lesson. So let me make sure that you all get the lesson. It's COVID for all of mankind. It's not for only some part of Africa or some part of Iceland or something. It's for all of us. And the lessons that you shared are again for all of us. Thank you so much. And we would like to have you back again in the near future. So be ready with your next set of talks. So
Thank you so
Sarah.
much, Sarah.
Tyra, there is one question actually, or a request in the chat window, which I forgot earlier. So Satish is asking, can you share the link to the meditation which you talked about? I think you talked about Dr. Sola's meditation. So can you share that link?
I'll have to get it to you. We found it. We got it through the Souls meeting. Every Monday night we sit down
Right,
with
yeah.
those people. We ask Swami to to manifest the Pashante Diem in the way he wants it. And in that beautiful session, which happens once a week, we got Dr. Solo's meditation. Dr. Solo comes on every week, and it's obviously not live anymore, and he gives the same meditation. And it is so powerful. I think maybe Aruna might have the link to it.
Right. I mean, I think it's available on YouTube. So Satish, you can get it on YouTube, or else if Arunaji is still on the call, probably can you please send me that one? So what I would do is I send that link to all the devotional coordinators in the region, so that you can pick it up from your respective center region, devotional coordinator.
In Dr. Srikant Sola's silent retreat in New York, he has talked about 4-5 sections on all this type of medication. So it is in the YouTube, so people can go through and get the information.
Yeah. Like anyone who is having a link to that one, if you send it to me, I'll send it to all the devotional coordinators across the region, and respective center members can pick it up from their devotional coordinator.
If you type Google it and Dr. Srikant Sola, it comes there itself. Four talks are there already.
Okay.
Everybody can access also.
Correct. Yeah, it's available on YouTube. But since that's specifically asking for the link, then I would like to send it to them. And
okay.
Thank you. Thank you all once again. Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to both our keynote speakers, Jack and Sally. Wonderful talk and a lot of insights in how we deal with the current chaotic situations and how to practice spirituality in this environment. Thank you all. And as Shyam was saying, that we are definitely looking forward to listen to you again on this forum and get ready with your talks. Sai Ram.